I'm excited about this next segment because this is there's a lot of nitty gritty here. There's a lot of very useful content that I'm going to be sharing next, and that is shooting on a sunny day, shooting on a cloudy day, and then talking about on-camera flash versus off-camera flash. So the first thing I have is talking about shooting when the sun is out. You've all heard this term before, overpowering the sun with your flash. Can you do it? And I remember when I first kind of got into flash photography, I'm like, really? The sun's pretty bright. Can you really overpower the sun? And the answer is yes. Even with one little flash, you can make your exposures, your ISO, your aperture, your shutter speed, and your flash power. You can make it all just so that you can work with the sun. In fact, given enough flash power, you can even make the ambient light almost completely black on a bright sunny day and illuminate your subject. So that's what I want to show you how to do. Now, a little bit of truth telling. When we did the pre-shoot, we scheduled the pre-shoot months and months in advance. And of course, it was bright and sunny the day before, and it was bright and sunny the day after, but the day we did the pre-shoot, it was cloudy. So I didn't do a pre-shoot photo in the outdoors. Rather, I did my own shoot photo in the outdoors, and that's what I want to show you here. So here I'll be using a different model than our parkour athletes who are with me up in Seattle. So let's talk about a few basic tenets of shooting on a sunny day. So the first one is that shutter speed thing again. We're always fighting that maximum shutter speed sync, and it's about a 250th of a second, okay? When it's sunny out though, a lot of times there's just, even at ISO 100 and at f5.6 and at a 250th of a second, there's too much ambient light. So we have to find a way a lot of times to decrease the amount of ambient light coming into the camera. And we do that through using either an ND filter or we use it using high-speed sync, where we can actually go beyond a 250th of a second. So we're going to teach those actually in the third segment of the day. I'm going to show you how we use an ND filter or the high-speed sync. For the examples that I have showing here next, this photo, this was taken with just literally my D500, a kit lens, and on a bright and sunny day. So I was just shooting a behind-the-scenes photo here just to show you the general setup. So don't mind the smile. The smile is it's a bright sunny day, and that's one of the problems with working outside is the person is almost always squinting. And so we're going to talk about how do we arrange the person so they're not squinting all the time. But here you can see basically we've got a model, we got a guitar. I'm using a light stand and an umbrella and my flash. It's that simple. And if you look at it closely, if you start breaking down the light, you can actually see the rim light over the shoulder and the rim light off of the legs and the rim light on the hair. So that tells you right away the direction the sun is coming from for this image. I'll talk about this a lot today, especially in the segment, is in general, the rule is you want the sun to be behind the subject, okay? If the sun is behind the subject, it creates a nice rim, and then your flash is going to be opposite the sun, filling in the shadows and creating the nice catch light in the eyes, okay? And I'll show you an image here in I think 3 or 4 slides that shows you when you do this wrong what that looks like. Okay, so this photo on the right side was taken with no flash. The photo on the left side was taken with flash. And right away you actually probably have to look kind of closely at it to see, was flash used? You can see the photo on the left is a little bit brighter, a little bit snappier, but it's really subtle, isn't it? Very subtle. In fact, that's the way I like my flash photography. I don't always like my photos to look like a flash was used. I want the flash to be gentle, kind, soft, and just produce a nice little catch light here in the eyes, okay? So this is a very subtle use. In general, I think my settings here were a 250th of a second, probably ISO 100 or ISO 50, very low, and then you can see the background is quite a far distance away, so it's nice and blurry. I like that. Okay, here's another example of just a little bit wider angle. So earlier in the previous segment, I think you were asking about, the background. Is the background in shade? Is the background in sun? Well, in this case, the background is actually in shade. I've got sun filtering through the trees, but I chose for this example to have the background dark. And that was a creative choice. When the background is dark, you can then light the subject so the subject kind of stands out from the background visually and also from a brightness perspective. So the photo on the left is no flash. You can see she's sad. No flash, sad. The photo on the right with flash. Flashes bring smiles to everybody's face. And you can see it's just a nice kick of light, just a little bit more oomph, pizzazz, a little more modeling, a little catch light in the eye. Fantastic. So let's break this shot down a little bit. So you can see I used fill flash. You can see that this is an umbrella. It's actually a silver umbrella. What do you notice about the sun? Well, here the sun is striking the side of her face. So I didn't have the sun directly at her back. Is it bad? No. Is it good? No. The point is it's there. And so just recognizing that the flash is striking the side of the face, understanding how to fix it if it is a problem. Maybe the person has a mole, or maybe they've got some hair growing out of their ear, something that wouldn't look that great. So now you know the solution. The solution is just to turn them more away from the sun to prevent it from happening. In this case, I don't mind it that much. It's hitting her ear in her earring. Those things are okay. More importantly, though, and the neat thing about putting the sun behind is you get a free rim light. It's like having another piece of lighting equipment in your studio that you didn't have to pay for. And that's what you get when you shoot on a sunny day, is you get a free rim light. So put the sun behind the head, or, these are ors, or move the subject to the shade. Put the subject in the shade with the background in the sun. So I'm imagining, let's go to the beach. Let's go to San Diego, California. And let's put the subject underneath a palm tree, so they're in the shade, but then you've got the boats or the beach or whatever there in the background. Then you're going to bring your flash up so that person is balanced well with the ambient light in the background. Another option is maybe you are on like an open plain where there's no trees, there's no buildings to cause shadow. In those cases, you might need to use a scrim to shield them from the direct sunlight. Here's an example. Let's pretend that we're at the, let's go to the Space Needle. So we're at the Space Needle, and we want to shoot a portrait from this position, and the Space Needle's behind them. And you have to use this positioning for the photo that you want. Well, unfortunately for this photo, the sun is shining on your subject's face. In that case, you have to use a scrim. You got to block the light from the sun so that it's only nice, soft, diffuse light. Then you bring in your flash to cause the shaping and the modeling that you're after. So sometimes you can't physically get the subject turned away from the sun. That's where the scrim comes into play. So a scrim is an advanced tool, but it's not a complicated tool. Like most things in photography, it just takes a little practice, a little trial and error, and then you'll put it to work in the real world, and you'll get great results. So let's look at what happens when you don't position the sun behind them. Again, frowny face, squinty eye, right? So here the sun is shining across their body, right? It's on the guitar, it's blowing out the details on the guitar. Right here underneath her eye, on her cheek, that's all blown out. Not a good positioning for the ambient light. So literally, by having her turn her back to the sun, and then me going around and shooting with the sun behind her, it fixes almost all of those problems. Sometimes if your subject, a female subject primarily, if she has longer hair and it's not like up in ponytails like this, sometimes the longer hair can actually shield the face from the sun, so you have a little bit more room to work with the positioning of the body. They can turn this way and they still not get the sun on the face. But I'm always watching that very closely. And back to your question earlier, watching out for those blinkies, making sure you don't blow out any critical surfaces like skin, face, that type of thing. If you're a wedding photographer, generally you don't want to blow out anything on the front of the dress, because it's all sequins and the bride paid a lot of money for that dress and she wants to see the detail. So just be careful you're not getting sun in the wrong places. So let's do a quick example. Let's shoot with the sun here in the studio, and let me, is that where we're at? Yeah. So the next thing after this will be the cloudy day. So I want to just do a quick example. I need an audience volunteer. Anybody volunteer? You'll do it? All right, come on over. And let's turn the light on. You want me to grab it? Okay. And I'm going to have you stand about right here. So what was your name again?
Xavier.
Xavier.
Yeah.
I'm Mike.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, man. All right, so go ahead and stand about right here. And yeah, stand just about like that. Perfect. This is a good starting point. And before we get shooting, I got to move some of my gear over here and move my tethering computer over so we can show the results of this. All right, Xavier. So let's see what I want to show on camera here. First of all, I'm going to walk up close to you. We got the sun behind you, and you can see the sun is striking across the front of his body, okay? So if you just turn this shoulder towards me, yep, even turn again, or even more, there you go. And now we can see, we don't really have a camera on that side. Actually, we will once I move this umbrella out of the way. And now we can see this side of Xavier is in shade, and we're getting this nice rim light off the shoulder. As simple as moving and rotating to where the sun is, it's that simple, seriously. So real quick, I'm going to have you rotate again this way, keep coming around. All right, cool. So I'm going to take my first picture, my first shot with no flash, okay? I'm building that exposure, right? Make sure I'm tethered. Things look good. All right, cool. So I'm going to start building my exposure, and I'm going to do it with Xavier in the poor light. He's oriented in the wrong way, but just to show you what's going on. This isn't the real sun, obviously, so my ISO is going to be a little bit higher. So I'm going to start my ISO at ISO 800, okay, ISO 800. If I was outside, that would be much more like 100, but since it's a studio light, we got to be a little bit higher. I'm going to be at f5.6, and I'm going to start out at 1/250th of a second. Make sure I'm zeroed out there. So I'm at 1/250th of a second. As I point the camera over towards Xavier, I'm looking at the metering there, and what I'm seeing is that my exposure overall is at about 0. So that means the overall scene's about medium brightness. All right, so we'll take a quick test shot. Here we go. Let's see what that looks like as it comes into the computer system. There we go. All right, so you can see how much ambient light is in the background, how much light is on Xavier. Okay, Xavier, I'm going to have you turn your right shoulder towards me. So basically, we're blocking out the sun even more. Perfect. And same shot again now, except no sun on the front of his body. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, super. So there's the shot. So that's what the ambient light looks like. Okay, so quick mental check for you. What would I do if I wanted more ambient light in the background? Shutter speed, right? So let's do that. The background in this case is the white wall and the window shades, but let's just pretend it's all pretty and we want more ambient light. So I need a longer shutter speed. I'm currently at a 2/50th. Let's just bring that up to, or let's bring it down to a 60th. So 2/50th, a 1/25th, a 60th. That is 2 stops brighter for my ambient light. Same picture, no flash. 1, 2, 3. All right, good job, Xavier. Oops. Let's look at the computer, get the results of that. And there, perfect. So here's the previous shot, dark, and there is the next shot, brighter. We're overpowering the sun. We're starting that whole process of how much of the sun do I want to influence the photo, okay? And so in this case, in the second photo, I wanted more sun. I want more oomph from the sun. All right, now I'm going to go turn on the flash, okay? And we have a little camera rigged up inside the flash itself so you guys can see what I'm doing. So over here on my Nikon flash, it's currently set to off, and I'm going to set it for remote. And again, this is just the Nikon system. The Canon's different, Fuji's different, they're all different. Now what we see here is it says remote mode. I'm in manual exposure, okay, manual exposure. I'm in channel 5 in group A. And it's just sitting there waiting for me to do something with it. So if we go back to here now, on my camera, let's just go see what my settings are from my camera menu. Now remember, I'm controlling this through the radio system. So go flash control, flash group options. Group A, I'm currently at manual output, and I'm at 1/16 power. I don't know, is that good? Sure, it's a good starting point. So let's take a picture. All right, I'm going to move the flash in closer to Xavier. All right, so Xavier, are you a smiler or are you more of a serious guy? What's your kind of... Smiler. You're a smiler? Good, I like smilers. All right, Xavier, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, when we look at that image, cool. Not too shabby. So that was just a guess, you know? So starting out, I just said 1/16 power, and it looks like the exposure for his face is about right. Now, there's some things that are annoying me a little bit. Xavier doesn't have a lot of hair on his head. So in order to solve that problem, you know, we get a bit of shine here. I have to actually shoot at a steeper angle to the sun, or more like completely opposite of the sun. So I'm going to move my studio a little bit over here. So now the sun is literally right behind him. I'm going to have you bring that shoulder towards me a little bit more. Yep, good. And the background's not real pretty here, but that's okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Now we see by moving the sun behind him completely, we don't get the whole shine off the top of the head, which is really important, I think, a lot of times. So we've minimized the impact of that. I'm going to call it an issue, the photo issue. You know, some people have longer hair, and so we need to move him this way, maybe to get a little bit of sun. The whole point is that by just positioning his body, working with the existing light, we can really get the photo we're after. Now, if I want to completely overpower the sun, if I want that background to drop away, because right now we have some yellow tape on this stairwell. You know, imagine this is an alleyway, right? It's an alleyway in a city, and there's something, I don't know, maybe there's some graffiti in the background you don't want. Well, how do we eliminate that? Shutter speed. So we'll go here on the camera, and I'm currently at a 60th. Now all I need to do is increase my shutter speed back up to the maximum sync speed of 1/250th, and we'll take that shot again. And now the background should drop out pretty well. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Nice smile. I'm liking it. Well, okay. Not super dark, but you can see increasing the shutter speed up to a 2/50th a second. The background is 2 stops darker. One of the things that's happening is we are getting some spillage, some spillover from this umbrella. So another solution is move him farther away from the background, or do high-speed sync, a much faster shutter speed. Or the last one we could do, ISO. I could bring my ISO down. I'm currently at ISO 800. I can go down to 400 or 200. So I won't do all of that, but I just want to make the point that you guys can control the light, you can work with the sun, and still produce fantastic results. Literally, all I have, this could be a $29 flash and a $30 umbrella. You know, so 150, 180 bucks, you've got yourself the ability to overpower the sun. Pretty cool. Thank you, man. Okay, let's go. Actually, let's just take a quick question or two, if there are, because working with the sun is a big deal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and then we're going to go to the cloudy setup. And I'll take off my camera.
Question that had come in earlier was, do you ever use LED lights outdoors?
Great. Love this question. And I think a lot of times the genesis of this type of question is cost. You know, sometimes you can get constant lighting, like LEDs, fluorescents, incandescent lights, and they don't cost as much as a flash and a strobe system. And the answer is you have to have some pretty honkin' high power LEDs to work outside. And to buy the type of LEDs like on a TV set, like, you know, if you watch the 7 a.m. America shows that are on TV, they have these huge, very high-powered LED setups. You're not going to be able to afford those, and they're just not practical. So my general, my direction for you would be don't use those for outdoor flash photography unless you can invest a lot of money in powerful systems.
One more, just kind of clarifying what you just taught us here. And Jose Vincent Photo had asked, how do you shoot strongly backlit subjects? So when you moved so the sun was behind, Xavier, with your camera in aperture priority mode and your flash in TTL.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there's no right answer for what exposure mode that you use in the camera, you know, manual, aperture, program, shutter priority, versus TTL and manual. It all works. Some of them are just more consistent than others. So let me talk about why I choose manual mode for a lot of my flash photography. Manual mode, by its very nature, is stable. When you set your ISO, when you set your shutter speed, and when you set your aperture, nothing is variable. So those are all fixed. TTL, on the other hand, so TTL flash exposure and TTL camera exposure are variable. And they react dramatically to what the subject is wearing and what the background is doing. So for example, this last week I shot an event, that fundraiser event. When I photographed someone at the event and they were wearing a white shirt, I was in TTL mode, that subject's face went very dark because TTL reacts from that and goes, oh, it's white, and I want to make it gray, right? It's white, and I want to make it gray. TTL puts out less light. And then I photographed this guy. He was wearing an all-black suit, and he was a black guy. And so now what the TTL system does is goes, oh, that's all black, and I need to make it gray. So what does it do? Way overexposes. So his face was blown out. So TTL has its own kind of idiosyncrasies that you have to learn to work with. What I find is a lot of times for this type of work, working in manual mode helps you understand what's happening. And as crazy as it sounds, I think you have to be a more advanced photographer to do well with TTL than you do to work well with manual exposure mode. You know, manual exposure mode is so, you just change one thing and then you see the results. In TTL, it's like, what sorcery is going on behind the scenes? How come it's so bright this time and how come it's so dark that time? So that's my suggestion.